Funk, and this is Gloria Parsisson, and I will be interviewing her on the Heart of Ohio Trail. So, when were the tracks built?
The tracks in Centerburg were about 1873 is when they finished them. The tracks east of here into Mount Vernon were more in the 1860s. And so this part wasn't developed for quite some time. And then this section actually came from the Delaware area, in the Columbus, Delaware area, into Centerburg and then on into Mount Vernon to connect there.
Were the tracks as wide or thinner than the trail is now?
What you see is the rail bed that we had, and the tracks fit within, you know, what's laid down for blacktop. So it was pretty much the same. I think most of this particular piece of trail is a 60-foot right-of-way, so we have quite a bit of track on either, you know, or land on either side. But the tracks ran right where it is now.
When were the tracks replaced with the trail that we see now?
Well, the tracks themselves were still there. They abandoned running the railroad in 1971, so we had almost 100 years of railroad. And so they stopped running, but the rail company did not sell it. They maintained it. They continued to pay property taxes on it, so they maintained it as one chunk of trail. That was really good for the Heart of Ohio Trail, because when we wanted to purchase it, we could purchase it as one chunk. It did not revert back to the farmers that owned it before it became a railroad, and so that was a really good thing.
Can you still see where the track is in different places along the trail?
Not really. It is actually covered over by the blacktop. So under the blacktop is where the rails used to be. I can remember as a kid walking the rails, and we used to take pennies and put on the rails and wait for the trains to go by. And as a kid, my mom and dad lived, you know, just over there, not too far away, and I could see the tracks. So we would watch and see whether it was a steam train or a diesel, and if it was a steam train, are they burning, you know, oil, or are they burning coal, or are they burning wood, depending on what smoke. And the sounds were interesting and different, and I kind of missed that.
Yeah. Why is the trail so important for Centerburg?
Well, I think it's kind of like the railroad was important for Centerburg. At one time in the early 1800s, 314 was a major connection to Cleveland, the lake, and coming down here and then eventually hooking up with the Ohio River. When the mail and travel got diverted to other parts, other roadways, Centerburg began to decline. And then in 1873, when the railroad went through, we picked up again. We had 2 railroad stations, we had 2 hotels, there were liveries that would go to the railroad to pick up people, hacks, as they were called then, somebody in a small cart with a horse, and they would take the people uptown, and it really did a lot for business. So it was very active then. And so we've kind of declined of late, particularly so when the freeway system went in. So when you get interstates, people are traveling interstates, they're not doing Route 3 coming through Centerburg. So that really changed things for us. So I think with the trail, then you're going to see more people say, oh, I can stop in Centerburg. I'll stop at Pittsburgh. I'll go uptown, you know, to Long Branch. I'll stop at Christie's Bakery. And so I think from a commerce perspective, it will be good.
What is the trail name referred to and why?
Well, pretty much because we've always been the Heart of Ohio here. It's oral history. It's not anything proven scientifically, but we've always said that we are the Heart of Ohio, the geographic heart of Ohio. So it just kind of made sense to go along with that Heart of Ohio kind of theme, and so that's why it is. It's a section of the Ohio to Erie Trail. There's, you know, in Knox County, it's, you know, the Heart of Ohio Trail, and then it's the Cocosine Gap Trail, and then the Mohegan Valley Trail, and then you get into Holmes County.
What was the trail before the tracks were built?
Farmland. There were many farmers that lived along here, and I've heard stories about when the railroad was first talking about coming here, the farmers were very excited about it because they could ship out their grain, they could ship out their livestock and make a lot more money, you know, having that kind of a transportation system right next door. And so they invested heavily in the railroad. The first railroad that said they were going to build through here, they went bankrupt. And there were a couple of farmers that actually, they lost their entire farm, you know, because they said, oh, we need the railroad, and they put all their money into that. Another company bought it, and I think they did a few things, and then they sold it to somebody else. There's a whole history of that. But eventually then it did develop into a railroad, which was a good thing. But before the railroad here, it was farmland.
Where were the different stops along the trail or by the trail?
Well, when this one got developed, the rail systems were just getting developed in the country. That was the new boom thing. And kind of like how many years ago would there have been cell towers for cell phones? You know, that was the big deal. And so they had Cleveland down to Pittsburgh, but they didn't have a good thing from Cleveland to come this route into Columbus. And so they came to Hudson, Ohio. There was a stop in Hudson, Ohio, and they took off from there and started, you know, kind of southwest. And so it started in Hudson, and then there's a whole bunch of little stops all along the way until they finally got down here. Between here and Columbus, there's what they called Blendon Corners, which would be Westerville, Sunbury, and here.
And was Hometown Market a train stop?
Never was.
Okay.
Nope. Hometown Market hardly existed when we still had the railroad. Now, behind Hometown Market is where the two railroads crossed. And a lot of folks in Centerburg worked at the switch tower. So there's a tower out there because you have the T&OC line, and then you have the Heart of Ohio Trail or the CA&C line, and they crossed there. So there were guys in Centerburg, and that was their whole career, was to run the telegraphs and, you know, work there and make sure the trains switched as they needed to.
That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then what do you say?
Cut!
We're good.
Well, they gave him his orders down in Monroe, Virginia. Said, Steve, you're way behind time. This ain't old 38, now it's number 97. Gotta put her into Danville on time. Well, he turned and he said to his blacked up greasy firemen, let's shovel on a little more coal. You just watch as we cross that White Oak Mountain. You can watch those 97 roll. Get on her, Joe.